Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you for the introduction. My name is Halepas. I'm a barrister from the UK. I specialize in criminal law. And yes, I was previously the lead digital assets lawyer in an offshore jurisdiction. I'm here today to provide an update, a law enforcement update or approach to digital assets. I launched my own consultancy, BlockAML, at the crossroads of financial crime, anti-money laundering, digital assets, to advise, to provide advocacy, to keynote speak, and so on. I'm also, my day job, I'm a barrister in court. Unfortunately, I won't be here for very long. I have to be back in court in London tomorrow morning. But I seized the opportunity to come here because it's an excellent conference, and I really want to speak to you about some of the work that I've done and to reach out with you guys. So, as well as being a barrister, I'm also an international consultant, and I've worked on a few projects this last year with the Council of Europe, advising different jurisdictions on digital assets, crypto companies, crime risks, and so on. And one of the projects in the last year, actually, was in this jurisdiction. So you may or may not know that the role of financial forensic expert in this jurisdiction is fairly recent, put into statute, and it's my great privilege to work on this project, to conduct a needs assessment last year, to interview select members of the judiciary, prosecutors, financial forensics experts in this jurisdiction, and to produce a working paper advising on next steps, how we can strengthen the role of financial forensic experts in your jurisdiction. Understandably, I can't tell you what's in here, but I can give you an idea for some of the crime risks we face, and I can tell you that, well, perhaps unsurprisingly, I'm a crypto native. I want this technology to go mainstream. I understand that this room staring at me is not full of criminals. I've been struck within this crypto industry by the dedication and the passion of the developers and so on to try and strive to bring this technology mainstream. My request, what I urge you to do, and this is not from the Council of Europe, this is from me personally, is this. I was really impressed by the professionals that I met during this process in your jurisdiction. You're fortunate to have, if I may say, experienced, talented, devoted financial forensic experts, and they are keen to learn. Obviously, globally, law enforcement, public agencies, they tend to be a bit behind with the learning. And as we know, as you know very well, there's such a rapid rate of change in this industry. So my plea to you guys, please have a think about reaching out to the Public Prosecutor's Office, to the Faculty of Economics, University of Belgrade, to speak to them, to offer your services in education, because the financial forensic experts in this jurisdiction and the prosecutors, I know because I've heard it firsthand, they are keen to learn about this industry, about this technology and the crime risks, and I know that you guys are ahead of the game. So I promote and welcome public and private collaboration to help in this effort. We know there's a lot of corruption and bribery in this jurisdiction, as with many other jurisdictions, but we are making efforts to combat that. Right, so in terms of an update, this up here on the left is Europol's latest document from this year, and it's quite clear that globally, law enforcement agencies are wising up. They're becoming aware that this technology is not going anywhere. It is a bona fide asset class, but there are crime risks. And more the publications that you see are drawing attention to this crime risk. I mean, of course, we know that bad actors have been in this realm for quite a while, but law enforcement agencies are aware of the possibilities and the crime risks. And I should say, if you want any copies of any of these documents, please approach me later. Just to update you on the current landscape. So we can see that the bottom half of the screen, it's said that a minuscule amount of the activity in blockchain is illicit, which is really positive. But obviously, we work together. We strive to minimize the number of illicit transactions in this industry. At the top of the screen, you can see what is believed to be the volume of illicit activity in this industry. As time goes on, more illicit wallets are identified, and the numbers move. But what we can see in the top one is in 2022, there was an explosion of illicit activity with sanctioned actors, unsurprisingly perhaps. And we can see that activity plays a part in the illicit activity. We can also see that scamming has not gone anywhere. It's quite a constant in this industry. So please, developers, crypto businesses, if you're here, just be alert, be alive to the kind of crime risks in this industry. Some more charts for you here. You can see that at the top I've included the number of crypto hacks. We can see that we're beyond the peak of the amount of crypto stolen through hacks, but we can see that the number of hacks globally annually is growing, I'd say, pretty steadily. Interestingly, I think at the bottom half of the screen, you can see the preferred asset classes for illicit actors, and perhaps surprisingly, certainly interestingly, whereas Bitcoin used to form the bulk of the illicit activity, or the preference for bad actors, we've moved into stablecoins. Stablecoins are the preferred option for bad actors bad actors globally. One reason might be the fact that stablecoin usage has increased phenomenally. And for money launderers, for criminals, it's preferable to move in highly liquid markets. So please be alert to that. Here, top slide. I included this one because I think it's quite interesting. You see that in terms of funds stolen by type of compromise in blockchain, private key compromise is the largest chunk. The bottom half, you can see that. I mean, this is quite positive, I suppose, if law enforcement are dealing with centralized exchanges who are up to speed with their KYC and anti-money laundering, is that most of the scammed funds in blockchain, they actually end up in centralized exchanges. Positive, negative, I'll come on to that a little bit later. And we can see that DeFi still is a destination for a fair amount of scammed funds because it helps with obfuscation. Once criminals can get the funds to DeFi, swap, obfuscate, chain hop, and so on. I included this. This is TRM's 2025 crypto crime report, and you can see that traditionally mixer services were popular with bad actors to help to obfuscate the funds stolen. But we're seeing that cross-chain bridges are becoming more popular, and whereas particularly for ransomware payments, they tend to be requested in Bitcoin, but further downstream, they change, they hop, they change, convert into different cryptos. Moving on, I included this because this is ETH Belgrade. So apparently, the largest percentage of illicit crypto activity in last year occurred on the Tron blockchain, followed by Ethereum. And it's supposed that bad actors have a preference for blockchains that have low transaction fees, smart contracts, and again, we come back to stablecoins, popular stablecoins. Please be mindful of that. This paper I thought was really interesting. If you'd like a copy, please let me know. I included it because it's research into patterns in scamming and with Ethereum, and there's a clear trend for scammers moving funds from let's say Western exchanges where KYC, AML checks are perceived to be stronger, more robust, and moving them into jurisdictions where they're not. Please be mindful of that. Also, this research paper studied the data, and we know that the median address in scamming is active for about 68 days. So when it comes to law enforcement, we need to move quickly. It's quite difficult, as you know, the funds in blockchain move immutably, they move really quickly, and that's one of the challenges for us in law enforcement when it comes to tracking, freezing, seizing suspected illicit crypto. Okay, so international standards. You might have heard of the Financial Action Task Force. Let's say that the FATF, for short, is the international watchdog, setting standards for jurisdictions globally to try to help tackle money laundering, proliferation financing, terrorist financing. Now, that's great. It's great to have uniformity globally, but we're not quite there. Now, the FATF has 40 recommendations for jurisdictions on lots of different things, but I've included something on Recommendation 15 because Recommendation 15 introduced or extended anti-money laundering, combating financing of terrorism requirements to digital assets and to crypto businesses. So specifically, crypto businesses are expected or mandated to be regulated, licensed, registered, and subject to effective monitoring systems, which is great, right? Moving forward, we accept that although privacy is one of the main draws to blockchain technology, we accept, I hope, that for this technology to go mainstream, transparency will have to increase. So that's wonderful. What's the downside? Well, the downside is that the FATF conducted a review last year, and they might well conduct a review in the coming months. But the problem with Recommendation 15 is that globally, only three quarters of jurisdictions are either only partially compliant with Recommendation 15 or not compliant. So we've got the recommendations, we've got the standard set, but most jurisdictions are not meeting those standards. That's the downside. You might well have heard of the travel rule, especially if you're dealing with MiCA, with European regulation. But this is an obligation for crypto companies to collect, transfer information, identifying information about the originator and the beneficiary. So we can try to identify who's behind different wallets. So again, that's really useful, and that's the direction that the world is moving in. The downside is that, again, last year, the Financial Action Task Force surveyed jurisdictions and found that globally, implementation of the travel rule remains really low. So we have the regulations, we have the standards. Unfortunately, the FATF continues to remind us that most jurisdictions are not meeting these standards. Right. Okay, so in terms of compliance and monitoring of suspicious activity in this industry, red flags are identified and reviewed, and that's how compliance units, compliant functions identify potentially suspicious activity. I've included only a few red flags on the screen. There are lots, as I'm sure you can imagine, just to give you an idea of the types of activity that crypto businesses should be alert to. And if red flags arise, heightened scrutiny of customer activity should be performed. So, for instance, are multiple unrelated wallets controlled by the same IP address? That would be suspicious, in my view. Again, does the customer insist on transacting with crypto businesses in jurisdictions with weak due diligence, with crypto businesses or with weak KYC processes? These would be typical red flags that we would expect businesses to look out for. Right, just a few case studies to give you an idea of what's going on. I'm sure you've heard of the Lazarus Group. The Lazarus Group are notorious for hacking and harming the health of our blockchain industry. This year in February, we saw the largest crypto hack theft of all time. We're happy to discuss that later. You can see on screen, this is the Lazarus Group's identified wallet here. You can see in February 2025, there's a huge spike there with the Bybit hack. And what's been identified, unfortunately, if you can see bottom right of the screen, is that the number of days between successful Lazarus Group, North Korea affiliated group hacks has reduced. So what does that suggest to me? That suggests that they're more confident. and in their abilities, and they move quick. So for platforms, heightened security has got to be the priority. But it's difficult. I appreciate that it's difficult because we're dealing with state-sponsored hackers, and they will continue to be a thorn in our side, unfortunately. There's another issue. So sticking with hacks is this: not all jurisdictions are the same. And what's been identified is that North Koreans, not wishing to pick on them, but North Koreans, they might hack funds from an exchange. And what's been observed is not only are the funds split up to go into many different wallets in the hope that some of them might get through to their ultimate goal, but unfortunately, funds have been identified moving to exchanges in jurisdictions that perhaps don't have KYC requirements, or jurisdictions where if a law enforcement agency wanted to send a letter of request to ask for assistance or to ask for information, that jurisdiction might not be so cooperative. So we've observed that North Korean stolen funds sometimes end up in Russian exchanges. And I don't know if anyone here has tried to make any requests internationally for mutual legal assistance, but as I said, some jurisdictions are more cooperative than others. What do we see here? We see here, I've included this because there is an identified steady, gradual increase in the number of active Russian language, no KYC exchanges servicing sanctioned Russian banks, which is disappointing, but it's one of the challenges that we face. Why do I include that? I include it because realistically, moving forward, we can't just throw caution to the wind and say, well, look, privacy is inherent in blockchain and we don't know who's dealing with us, we don't know who's transacting. I'd suggest that the people in this room are aware that there are checks that can be done. AI can be implemented on checks. The blockchain open source can be scanned to identify suspected illicit wallet addresses, and we should be, I know it's easier said than done, but I would urge the industry to think about how we can identify suspected illicit activity better, stop it, and cooperate with public agencies in this country and other jurisdictions to help to identify suspicious activity. Okay, this one I can tell you about. This is Operation Destabilize. This was a law enforcement effort run with multiple jurisdictions, but led by the National Crime Agency in the UK. This identified money laundering on a huge scale in lots of different jurisdictions, and it's a sign that countries need to cooperate with each other. You can't do it on your own. Obviously, this technology is borderless, and we're seeing that criminals, money launderers, they're moving the funds across border, whether it's switching from crypto to cash, cash to crypto. But I include this because bottom of that screen, that's a money laundering case from the offshore jurisdiction that I was the lead digital assets prosecutor in. I couldn't tell you about that last year on stage because it wasn't all public information, but this is one of the case studies from Operation Destabilize. This was a case where cash couriers, money launderers, entered the jurisdiction, the offshore jurisdiction, to launder £60,000 of cash. Now, that on the face of it doesn't seem like a lot of money, perhaps, and the easy option, the really easy option for me as a reviewing lawyer was to say, fine, we've got the cash, we've got the highly suspicious handling of this cash on our island, on our offshore jurisdiction. Let's take the cash, let's prove using circumstantial evidence that this was money laundering, and let's leave it there. That falls short of the international standards and the expectations for addressing this problem globally. So what did we do? We investigated their bank accounts, we investigated their activity in the UK, we liaised with the UK authorities, and we began to unravel what was a huge money laundering operation, huge. Even these three money launderers, they were linked to human trafficking, illegal subletting of properties, millions of pounds. It was highly suspicious. I found evidence of crypto ownership by these criminals, and we shared that information with the National Crime Agency. Lo and behold, further downstream, it was found that these criminals on our small island, who were initially suspected of dealing with only £60,000, were linked with Russian ransomware gangs, global money laundering from crypto to cash, cash to crypto. So the lesson for us is don't take the easy low-hanging fruit. Highly recommend essential international multi-jurisdictional cooperation to tackle this crime type. Because look, if we seize digital assets that have been stolen, that are intended for use in criminality, my hope is that that will help to deter other people from doing the same. And we've got to. We can't let these criminals continue their activity in this space because it will harm the wider ecosystem. So that was Operation Destabilize. Right, another one. So sticking with money laundering, you might have heard of this one. This is Yan Wen, Chinese lady operating in the UK. She was a Chinese takeaway worker, and she lived above a Chinese restaurant. I think her declared income for 2016 was £6,000, and in 2017, I believe, she started renting a house for £17,000 a month. Now, she was convicted of money laundering. She said that she had been duped and she obtained the funds innocently, but the court disbelieved her. So we are seeing more prosecutions gradually of criminals who are involving themselves in laundering digital assets, which is really positive. And in common law jurisdictions, we have a concept called irresistible inference. So although we might not necessarily have I should say this is not one of my cases, but although we might not necessarily have evidence of where the funds have come from, if we can evidence with circumstantial evidence the handling of those funds. So for instance, this lady here, she was working as a Chinese takeaway worker. She had handling 61,000 Bitcoin. I mean, it's highly suspicious, isn't it? But anyway, she was prosecuted, and that leads me nicely onto future directions, because what we are observing is law enforcement agencies gradually are increasing their appetite for freezing, seizing, confiscating ill-gotten digital assets. So that happened in this case. So she was ordered this year that she will pay back £3.1 million sterling after her money laundering conviction, and if she does not, she will face additional time in prison. Bottom half of the screen, you can see countries holding Bitcoin. I've included that because there are serious conversations that need to happen within jurisdictions about the handling of digital assets. So 61,000 Bitcoin were seized from that lady. That takes the UK into the third largest holder territory of Bitcoin. Now, the UK will have to think about what they do with those funds, because Germany is also on that list. And as some of you may know, Germany took the decision last year. I did not advise the German authorities, but they took the decision to sell their digital assets, their Bitcoin, and that has cost the German public. So that's where we are. So we're going to expect to see more asset confiscation from bad actors handling digital assets, and more legislation to help realize that digital assets are property, are capable of constituting property, and we need laws to help us to address the crime risks with this industry. So this is legislation from the UK, and interestingly, it enables pre-arrest seizure of digital assets. It introduces the concept of crypto asset related items. So think of a crypto asset related item as a seed phrase or a hardware wallet. Are examples of those. Happy to discuss this later. Also introduces crypto wallet freezing orders. I mean, lots, right? Schedules 8, 9, and 10 of this document. Happy to discuss it later with you. But I think, as a crypto native, interestingly, is the concept of destruction of forfeited crypto assets in certain circumstances. So, for instance, if it's decided that it's not in the public interest to release digital assets that have been taken from criminals back into the market, in theory, well, in practice, they can be destroyed. Think maybe Monero might be an argument for not releasing that back into the system. Okay, right, in terms of asset recovery, crypto asset recovery, there are 4 stages: asset tracing, asset freezing and seizing, asset confiscation, and asset realization. So this is how it's meant to work using this structure. The difficulty, unfortunately, is that if there's an investigation in Serbia and there are crypto assets believed to be in a jurisdiction that is not known for being so cooperative with law enforcement, you might have difficulty obtaining cooperation from them. The other issue is that mutual legal assistance requests, so letters of request to other jurisdictions, they're measured in months rather than days, so they take time. And as you know, this asset class moves really, really quickly. So that's one of the issues that we face internationally. But there are structures in place. And in theory, if we have increased cooperation globally, if we have heightened intelligence sharing between public and private, between different jurisdictions, we can hope to increase our abilities to tackle criminality involving digital assets. So yes, I'll leave that on the screen for a little bit longer. Happy to discuss this with anyone afterwards. But I have some final thoughts to share. And I've been flying through these slides because I'm against the clock. But in my view, globally, we need to strengthen our AML and CFT strategies. Law enforcement need to have a pre-arrest, pre-seizure strategy for digital assets. It's no good executing a search warrant, say, and finding evidence of digital assets, and then we don't have a wallet that we can transfer the funds to. We don't have a strategy. But it's just no good. So this will have to be improved globally. Unfortunately, lots of jurisdictions are not quite there, but we're working to get there. I've advised, as I said, some jurisdictions on some of the pitfalls, some of the risks, suggested ways of helping to tackle this crypto crime, if I can call it that. But I really do believe that because of the nature of this asset class, there's no avoiding the need for public and private collaboration. And again, not just with financial forensic experts in Serbia, with all public agencies, all law enforcement agencies, we must continue or have continuous training and education. CASPs, VASPs, please don't turn a blind eye. Please harness the technology. I know that people in this industry are extremely intelligent and want this technology to continue to go mainstream. Please think about the efforts that you can take to help to identify potential illicit activity and to liaise with law enforcement and your financial intelligence units. One thing I'll highlight is this. One of the difficulties is that in private companies, it's been identified that there is an interoperability of compliance tools. So that's something that really can be addressed. Again, crypto companies, all companies, financially, TradFi, DeFi, well, DeFi we'll leave to one side, but crypto companies in regulated jurisdictions, they have an obligation to improve the quality of their customer onboarding. We need to know, so far as possible, who is dealing in crypto assets. Again, I've included on there a bullet for increased awareness and liaison. I really do believe that crypto natives, crypto businesses can do more to increase communication and liaison with your law enforcement agencies, with your regulators. Remember, gradually people are realizing that this is a bona fide asset class. This is not just for criminals, but the more cooperation we have between public and private, I'm confident, it's my belief, that we can help to tackle bad actors misusing this asset class. And again, intelligence sharing. So that's something happy to talk to you about after this. I've had discussions with public authorities in Europe about steps that we can take to streamline the intelligence sharing between different bodies, because we know that the assets can move extremely quickly. We need to have a think about how we can share intelligence quicker, more effectively to help to tackle this crime type. That's it. I flew through those slides. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I won't be here for the whole day, so if you do want to have a conversation, please do approach me today. And I'll keep doing my thing. I'll keep working with the Council of Europe and other agencies. And again, thank you for having me. It's my real pleasure to be here in Belgrade. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you actually for actually fighting money laundering, but still supporting crypto, and especially directly here in Serbia doing that. Thank you so much for that. We have 5 minutes for questions now. So if anyone has a question, please raise your hand, and a volunteer is going to pass you the microphone. We have a question there.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, first of all, thank you for your presentation. Is there any way that we can get those slides and use some of the data and
Yeah, of
add
course.
attribution? Yeah.
Of course, I'm happy to share them with you after any of those documents. And obviously, you'll appreciate that there are lots of research papers that I haven't included in my slides. But yeah, happy to share those afterwards. There's lots of open source material on this subject. Certainly, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Is that it?
Okay, I guess that's all.
Great.
Let's
Thank
give
you.
Michael a big applause.
Thank you. Thank you.